Atlanta, Georgia, was a vibrant city, brimming with stories and traditions. But for 8-year-old Aisha Johnson, Atlanta was also the backdrop for her first experiences with pain and struggle. Aisha lived in a modest but loving home with her parents, Jamal and Naomi Johnson, and her younger brother, Malik. The neighborhood they lived in, while welcoming, was not without its prejudices and challenges. On that spring morning, sunlight filtered through the living room windows as Aisha sat at the table, engrossed in a book about heroines. She dreamed of becoming a judge, and the tales of justice and bravery deeply inspired her. "Good morning, my shining star," Naomi said, preparing breakfast with a warm smile and endless patience. "Good morning, Mom," Aisha replied, lifting her eyes from the book and offering a shy smile. "Look, I'm reading about a judge who helped solve a big mystery." "I'd love to hear more about that, sweetheart," Naomi said, serving pancakes and bacon on Aisha's plate. "But remember, school is important too. You have everything you need to do great things." Meanwhile, in the front yard, Jamal and Malik were discussing a soccer game Malik wanted to play later. Jamal, a tall and strong man with a friendly smile, watched his younger son with patience. "I just want you to do your best, Malik," Jamal said, adjusting the soccer ball between the boys' feet. "Remember to have fun, but also to respect others." However, the day at school was far from cheerful for Aisha. During recess, while playing with some classmates, the atmosphere was tense. Aisha, with her dark skin and naturally curly hair, was often the target of jokes and cruel comments. "Hey, Aisha, why don't you go to Monsterland? No one here likes monsters," taunted a boy named Derek, laughing with his friends. Aisha tried to ignore it, but the comment hurt her deeply. The pain in her eyes was evident as she turned to walk away. Her friend, Mia, who had noticed the situation, ran after her. "Aisha, don't listen to what they say," Mia said, holding her friend's hand. "They're just being cruel because they don't understand. You're amazing just the way you are." Aisha forced a smile. "Thanks, Mia. I just want to be like the judge in the book, you know?" She helped solve a problem and brought justice. The rest of the day was a mix of trying to focus in class and moments of quiet sadness. On the way home, Jamal noticed something was wrong when he saw Aisha get off the bus with a downcast look. "How was your day, princess?" Jamal asked, bending down to meet his daughter's gaze. Aisha hesitated, then shook her head. "It was tough, Daddy. Some kids were cruel again." Jamal pulled Aisha into a tight hug. "I'm sorry you're going through this, Aisha. You're strong, and I know these things don't define who you are. Keep believing in your dream because we believe in you." That night, as she prepared for bed, Aisha looked at her room, where a poster of a judge with a scale of justice was hanging on the wall. She touched the poster with renewed determination and whispered to herself, "I'm going to show them that I'm more than they think. I'm going to make a difference." In that house in Atlanta, love and hope filled every corner. Aisha, even at 8 years old, was already facing the world with courage, and her parents were there to ensure she never lost faith in herself. Aisha's journey was just beginning, but the solid foundation of support and love from her family would give her the strength to face any challenge. Spring in Atlanta brought a burst of vibrant colors and a fresh scent in the air. As she approached her 9th birthday, Aisha Johnson had already started shaping her aspirations with the same dedication she showed in her studies and extracurricular activities. She was a girl with bright eyes and big dreams, even in the face of adversity. That afternoon, after school, Aisha was sitting in her backyard with a notebook and a book on rights and laws spread out around her. Her parents, Jamal and Naomi, watched her lovingly from the kitchen window. "Look at her," Naomi commented, drying her hands with a dish towel. "She's so focused on her studies. It's amazing how dedicated she is." Jamal smiled, nodding with pride. "She's always been like that, and it's great to see her so passionate about justice. It's what she's always wanted." Meanwhile, Aisha was lost in her world of dreams. She was working on a project about making justice more accessible to everyone, inspired by the books and conversations she had with her social studies teacher, Mrs. Rogers. The next day at school, Aisha was excited to present her project at the science fair. She had worked hard and was eager to share her dreams with her classmates. When she arrived at school, she found Mia, her best friend, at the entrance. "Mia, are you going to see my project today? It's about creating fair laws for everyone," Aisha exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Mia smiled and gave Aisha's shoulder a reassuring pat. "Of course I am. I'm sure it's going to be amazing, just like everything you do." The science fair was filled with interesting projects, and Aisha was nervous but determined. When it was her turn to present, she stood next to her project and began speaking to the class. "Hello, everyone," Aisha began, her voice steady even though her heart was racing. "I made this project because I believe that justice should be something accessible to everyone, no matter who you are or where you come from. Imagine a world where everyone had a voice and where laws were truly made to help people." As Aisha spoke, Derek, one of the boys who often teased her, was in the audience and whispered to a friend, "Look at her, always daydreaming." But Aisha was determined not to let those comments throw her off. She continued her presentation with confidence and, by the end, received a shy but sincere round of applause from her classmates. Mrs. Rogers, her teacher, was especially impressed. "Aisha, you did an exceptional job," Mrs. Rogers said, walking by the project. "Your project shows a deep understanding of the legal system and the importance of making it fair for everyone. Keep it up." Aisha's face lit up with a radiant smile. "Thank you, Mrs. Rogers. I just want to help people and make them feel heard." After the fair, as Aisha and Mia walked home, Mia congratulated her again. "You were amazing. Even with those taunts, you showed everyone how talented and determined you are." Aisha smiled at Mia, her heart light. "Thank you. I just need to keep believing in myself and my dreams. Sometimes it's tough, but knowing I have friends and family who support me makes me feel like I can face anything." When Aisha got home, Jamal and Naomi were waiting to hear about her day. Aisha ran to them, excited, and told them all about her presentation. "Daddy, Mommy, I got praise from Mrs. Rogers. And even though some kids whispered things, I managed to present my project and talk about my dreams." Jamal wrapped Aisha in a tight hug. "We're so proud of you, Aisha. You're an amazing young woman with a huge potential to change the world. Keep going, and never let anyone tell you otherwise." Naomi, with tears in her eyes, also hugged her. "We're here to support you every step of the way. Your dreams are important, and we're thrilled to see you getting closer to them." As Aisha got ready for bed that night, the moonlight bathed her room. She looked at the poster of the judge on the wall and felt a wave of determination. Her dreams were becoming clearer and more real with each passing day, and she knew that with the love and support of her family and friends, nothing was impossible. With this thought, Aisha closed her eyes, dreaming of a future where she could make a difference and turn her dreams into reality. Autumn in Atlanta brought a new palette of colors to the streets, with golden and red leaves scattered on the ground. For 13-year-old Aisha Johnson, the change of season reflected a new phase in her life, marked by more complex challenges and conflicting emotions. Although she still had big dreams and a passion for justice, the school environment was becoming increasingly difficult to endure. In high school, the atmosphere was thick with expectations and social pressures. Aisha was constantly targeted not only for her dark skin, but also for her ambition to become a judge. She worked hard to stay focused on her studies and goals, but her classmates' cruel words were beginning to weigh heavily on her. On a Friday morning, during recess, Aisha sat in a corner of the courtyard, reading a book about civil rights. She was trying to isolate herself from the discouraging comments and concentrate on her history project when she overheard a group of girls talking nearby. "Look at Aisha, all excited about that book," one of the girls commented, laughing, "as if someone like her could actually become a judge. Everyone knows that's just movie stuff." Aisha slowly closed her book and tried to ignore the comment, but the weight of the words hit her hard. She got up and went to the library, hoping to find a peaceful refuge. In the library, she found Mrs. Rogers, who was organizing some books on the shelves. Noticing Aisha's troubled expression, the teacher approached her. "Aisha, dear, you look worried. Is everything okay?" Mrs. Rogers asked with genuine concern. Aisha hesitated, then shook her head. "Things are a bit tough at school. They keep saying mean things about me and what I want to be. I know I shouldn't let it affect me, but it's hard. Mrs. Rogers sat down next to Aisha. I understand. It's really hard dealing with other people's cruelty, especially when you're trying to pursue a dream that's not common for your age. But know that most people who make a big difference in the world faced similar challenges. You're brave for continuing to fight. Thank you, Mrs. Rogers, Aisha responded, her voice a little stronger. I just don't know if I have the strength to keep facing this. You have more strength than you realize, the teacher said, picking up a sheet of paper and a pencil. Let's do an exercise. Write down why you want to follow this dream, and then you can see for yourself how important it is to you. Aisha took the pencil and began writing. As the words flowed, she felt a bit more relieved. The words on the paper were a reminder of her passion and determination. That evening, while at home, Aisha tried to share her feelings with her parents during dinner. Jamal and Naomi were talking about their day when Aisha, with a thoughtful expression, decided to open up. Mom, Dad, I've been having a hard time at school, she started, her voice trembling. Some kids keep being cruel and making me feel like my dreams are impossible. I'm starting to wonder if it's worth it. Jamal put his fork down and looked at Aisha seriously. Aisha, we know it's not easy facing this, and we understand how painful it can be. But remember, it's precisely when we face challenges that we show who we really are. You have a clear goal and an incredible passion. Don't let other people's negativity make you doubt yourself. Naomi nodded with a look of determination. You have a brave heart and an indomitable spirit. We believe in you and your dream. Helping people and seeking justice is a noble mission. And even though things are tough right now, that doesn't mean you should give up. The support and encouraging words from her parents helped Aisha feel a bit more confident. That night, as she prepared for bed, she looked at the poster of the judge on her wall and felt a new wave of determination. The path would be challenging, but she was resolved to keep fighting for her dreams despite the difficulties. As the moonlight softly illuminated her room, Aisha closed her eyes, remembering the words of Mrs. Rogers and her parents. The weight of the differences was still there, but her determination was stronger, and she knew that with support and courage, she could overcome the challenges ahead. Winter was starting to make its presence felt in Atlanta, with the cold air bringing a subtle change to the city. For 16-year-old Aisha Johnson, this season was marked not just by the colder weather, but also by a new hope that was beginning to blossom amid the adversities she had faced. Aisha was in the school library, sitting at a table covered with books about law and justice. She was deeply involved in a new oratory competition, a chance for her to express her convictions and dreams. This year's theme was Justice and the Future, Challenges and Solutions. It was an opportunity for Aisha to showcase her knowledge and passion for the law and justice. That morning, Naomi dropped Aisha off at school, worried about the presentation. As she parked the car in the school lot, she looked at her daughter with an encouraging smile. Remember, Aisha, Naomi said, adjusting her daughter's coat. You've worked so hard for this. Just speak from the heart, and people will feel your passion. Thanks, Mom, Aisha replied, taking a deep breath. I'm nervous, but I want to do my best. I just hope people can see how much this means to me. The oratory competition was about to begin, and the room was filled with students, parents, and judges. Aisha waited for her turn, attentively watching the previous presentations. When it was finally her turn, she stepped onto the stage, her heart racing. Good afternoon, Aisha began, her voice firm and clear, though slightly trembling. Today, I'm here to talk about the importance of justice and how it should evolve to meet the needs of everyone in our society. Justice shouldn't be a privilege for a few, but a right for all. As Aisha continued, she presented well-crafted arguments on how justice could be more accessible and effective. She spoke about the need for legal reforms and ensuring that everyone, regardless of their background, has a voice in the legal system. As she spoke, Aisha noticed some heads nodding and a few approving looks from the audience. She felt a wave of confidence growing as she continued her presentation. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Aisha stepped off the stage, exhausted but satisfied, and found Mia and a few classmates waiting to congratulate her. You were amazing, Aisha, Mia exclaimed, giving her a hug. You really captured the essence of the theme. You were brilliant. Derek, who had been in the audience and watched with a surprised look, approached Aisha. "I have to admit, you knocked it out of the park. I never thought anyone could talk about justice like that." Aisha smiled, a bit surprised by the compliment. "Thanks, Derek. I just talked about what I believe." Later, during the break between presentations and the announcement of the winners, Aisha sat with her family in the cafeteria. Jamal and Naomi were eager to hear the judges' opinions. "How do you feel?" Jamal asked, looking at Aisha with pride. "I feel relieved," Aisha replied, "but also a bit nervous. I did my best." After a long wait, the moment they had all been waiting for arrived. The school principal took the stage to announce the winners. Aisha's heart raced as she waited. And the first place in the oratory competition goes to Aisha Johnson, the principal announced. Aisha was momentarily stunned before getting up and walking to the stage. Tears began to well up in her eyes as she accepted the trophy. She looked at her family in the audience, who were applauding and cheering with joy. "I couldn't have done this without all of your support," Aisha said, her voice choked with emotion. "My mom, my dad, my friends, thank you for always believing in me." That night, at home, Aisha and her family celebrated the victory with a special dinner. Jamal and Naomi were beaming with pride. "You were brilliant, Aisha," Naomi said, placing a slice of apple pie on Aisha's plate. "This award is proof of how hard you've worked and the passion you have for what you do." Jamal raised his glass. "Aisha, your victory today is just the beginning. Keep believing in yourself and your dreams. You have an incredible ability to make a difference." Aisha smiled at her parents, feeling more confident than ever. With the trophy in hand and the support of her family, she felt that she was finally starting to carve out her place in the world. The turning point had come, and Aisha was ready to face the next challenges with renewed strength and determination. As summer's heat began to give way to the crispness of fall in Atlanta, the city was buzzing with academic excitement. For 17-year-old Aisha Johnson, this period represented a transition to a new chapter in her life, starting college. It was a time of enthusiasm and also of nervousness as she prepared to leave the familiarity of home and face the new college environment. On the morning of the semester's start, Aisha and her parents were busy organizing the move into her dorm at Emory University. The house was filled with boxes and luggage, and the frantic activity reflected the mixed emotions Aisha was feeling. "Dad, Mom, I still can't believe I'm doing this," Aisha said as she folded a stack of clothes. Jamal, with a proud look, carried a box to the car. "It's a big step, Aisha. Remember, you've worked hard to get here. And this is just the beginning." Naomi, who was packing Aisha's belongings into a suitcase, looked at her daughter with an encouraging smile. "We're so proud of you. This is an amazing opportunity, and we know you'll do great." When they arrived on campus, Aisha was greeted with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The campus was alive with students moving between classes, participating in activities, and exploring the area. Aisha made her way to her dorm, where her new journey was about to begin. "Welcome to Emory, Aisha," an enthusiastic voice said, interrupting her thoughts. It was Sarah, a roommate Aisha hadn't met before. Sarah was helping to arrange things on her side of the room. "Hi, Sarah," Aisha replied, a bit nervously, extending her hand in greeting. "Nice to meet you." "I'm excited to start here too," Sarah said with a smile. "If you need anything or help adjusting, I'm here." The first day of classes arrived quickly, and Aisha was eager for the new experiences ahead. In her introduction to law class, she found herself in an auditorium full of students, all excited to begin. "Good morning, everyone," said the professor, a middle-aged man with a serious but welcoming demeanor. "I'm Professor Carter, and this will be your first introduction to the fascinating world of law. We'll start with the basics and the importance of justice." As the professor spoke, Aisha felt a wave of excitement and belonging. The academic environment, though challenging, seemed like the perfect place for her, a place where her dreams could start to take shape. However, the transition to college was not without its challenges. Aisha found herself dealing with a more competitive environment and the need to adapt to a new pace of studying. The pressure to excel and fit in was palpable, and she had to find ways to balance her academic workload with her social life. In a campus cafe, while studying for an important exam, Mia, who had come to visit Aisha, sat down next to her. "How are you adjusting to campus?" Mia asked, noticing Aisha's tired expression. "It's a bit harder than I expected," Aisha admitted, running a hand through her hair. "The workload is intense, and I feel like I'm always chasing after something. But I'm trying." "I know you'll do great," Mia said, grabbing a coffee mug. "You've always been dedicated and determined. Just remember to give yourself a break and take care of yourself." Aisha smiled at her friend. "Thanks, Mia. I really need that encouragement. Sometimes it's easy to feel overwhelmed." As the weeks went by, Aisha began to adjust to the university pace. She joined study groups, got involved in extracurricular activities related to law, and still found time to stay in touch with her family. Her weekly conversations with her parents were a constant source of support and encouragement. During one of these calls, while preparing for a major exam, Jamal asked, "How are you handling the classes in the new environment, Aisha?" "It's a challenge, but I'm managing," Aisha replied, glancing at her books. "The workload is heavy, but I'm starting to adapt. Every day I feel a little closer to reaching my goals." Naomi, who was listening in, added, "Remember, we're always here for you, no matter the distance. We're so proud to see you pursuing your dreams with such passion." Aisha smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude. "Thanks, Mom and Dad. I really feel like I'm on the right path. And despite the challenges, I know I'm closer than ever to realizing my dream of becoming a judge." With the constant support of her family and friends, and the determination that had guided her so far, Aisha was beginning to carve out her path to the future. College was the next step in her journey, and despite the challenges, she was ready to face them head-on and continue her pursuit of justice. Aisha's second year at Emory University brought a new level of intensity and complexity. With her academic workload increasing and the pressure to stand out in a competitive environment, Aisha began to feel overwhelmed. Her days were filled with exhaustive studying, internships, and a constant struggle to balance her academic and social life. On a Friday afternoon, the campus buzzed with preparations for the weekend. Aisha was in the library, surrounded by a mountain of books and notes, trying to prepare for a crucial constitutional law exam. Her face showed signs of exhaustion, and she wore a worried expression. Sarah, her roommate, entered the library and noticed Aisha's tired state. She approached and sat down next to Aisha, placing a water bottle on the table. "You look like you're about to collapse," Sarah said with a concerned tone. "You need a break. You've been studying for hours." Aisha looked up from the stack of books. "I know, but I have so much to review before the exam next week. And I still have to deal with the internship. It's hard to balance everything." "I get it," Sarah said, picking up a book and flipping through it. "But if you don't take care of yourself, you won't have the energy for anything. Sometimes a short break is all you need to recharge." "Maybe you're right," Aisha admitted, running a hand through her disheveled hair. "I'm just afraid of falling behind and hurting my performance." That evening, Aisha received a call from Naomi, who was always ready with words of encouragement and support. "Hi, Mom," Aisha said, answering the phone and trying to hide the weariness in her voice. "Hi, dear," Naomi replied warmly. "How are things going? You sounded a bit tired during our last call." "Yeah, it's been tough," Aisha began, searching for the right words. "I'm juggling a lot right now and worried about meeting all my responsibilities." "I understand, Aisha," Naomi said empathetically. "What you're going through is challenging, but remember, you've overcome many obstacles to get here. Believe in your abilities and all the hard work you've put in so far." "Thanks, Mom," Aisha said, her tone softening. "I just don't want to let anything slip through the cracks. I wish there were a way to do everything at once." "It's important to find a balance," Naomi advised. "Sometimes that means taking a break and giving yourself a moment to breathe. No one can do everything all at once. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it." Over the weekend, Aisha decided to follow Naomi's advice and take a break. She went to a park near campus, where she sat on a bench and watched the leaves fall from the trees. The peaceful setting provided a welcome relief from the academic stress. While she was there, Aisha came across a group of student volunteers organizing a small social justice awareness fair. Intrigued by their initiatives and ongoing projects, she approached them to learn more. "Hi, are you interested in learning about what we're doing?" a student named Emily asked with a friendly smile. "Yes, I am," Aisha replied. "I'm studying law and have a special interest in social justice. What are you organizing?" Emily explained that they were hosting a series of events to raise funds and increase awareness about local social injustices. Excited by the idea of getting involved, Aisha, despite her busy schedule, decided she wanted to participate and help with the organization. By the end of the day, Aisha felt renewed and more connected to her purpose. Getting involved with the community and working on something she was passionate about brought a fresh perspective to her academic life. Back in the dorm, Sarah noticed the change in Aisha's mood. "It looks like the break did you good. You seem more upbeat." "Yes, it was exactly what I needed," Aisha replied with a smile. "I felt so focused on just studying that I lost sight of why I chose this path. Participating in that fair reminded me why I love what I do." November brought a new set of challenges and exams, but with a renewed spirit and fresh perspective, Aisha was better prepared to face them. She continued to strive for balance, confront her doubts, and remember her ultimate goal: to become a judge and make a difference in the world. Spring was in full bloom on the Emory University campus. The trees were bursting with vibrant colors, and the atmosphere was filled with a sense of renewal and hope. For Aisha Johnson, the semester brought a new challenge: her internship at a law firm, a crucial step in her journey to becoming a judge. However, the internship was proving to be more challenging than Aisha had imagined. The workload was intense, and the expectations from the attorneys were high. She was struggling to adapt to the fast-paced environment and the demands of the professional world. On a particularly tough afternoon, Aisha sat at her desk, surrounded by stacks of documents and reports. She was reviewing a complex case and trying to understand the legal nuances involved. The phone rang, and she answered quickly. "Hello, Aisha. How are you?" The voice of her supervisor, Mr. Thompson, came through the line. "I'd like to discuss the progress of your project. Can we meet in my office?" "Of course, Mr. Thompson," Aisha replied, trying to hide her apprehension. "I'll be there shortly." When Aisha arrived at Mr. Thompson's office, she was greeted with a serious look. He was reviewing some documents at his desk and looked up as she entered. "Let's sit," he said, pointing to the chair in front of him. "I want to talk about your work so far." Aisha sat down, adjusting her posture and trying to project confidence. "Yes, of course. What would you like to discuss?" "I've noticed that you've been doing a good job analyzing the documents," Mr. Thompson began, "but there are some areas where you need to improve. I need you to review and synthesize the information more concisely and clearly." Aisha swallowed hard, trying to control her nervousness. "Understood. I'll make sure to review those areas and improve the clarity of my reports." "Anything else?" Mr. Thompson asked, adjusting his glasses. "How are you adjusting to the pace here? Are you managing to balance the internship with your studies?" Aisha hesitated for a moment before responding. "Actually, it's been a bit challenging. I'm trying to balance the internship with my academic workload, and sometimes I feel overwhelmed." "That's understandable," Mr. Thompson said, with a softer tone. "The internship is demanding, but it's an opportunity to learn and grow. If you need any help or guidance, don't hesitate to ask." "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I really appreciate that," Aisha replied, feeling relieved to hear words of understanding. Later, during lunch break, Aisha met with Mia, who was visiting the office for an academic project. They sat down at a nearby cafe, and Aisha decided to share her frustrations. "I'm finding the internship harder than I expected," Aisha said, taking a bite of her sandwich. "I feel like I'm always chasing something, and, despite trying my best, I can't seem to meet the expectations." Mia looked at Aisha with an empathetic expression. "I understand how you feel. Sometimes, when we're dealing with new responsibilities, it feels like we're never going to manage. But remember, you've overcome so many challenges before. This too shall pass." "You're right," Aisha said with a sigh. "I just need to remind myself not to be so hard on myself and keep doing my best." As they talked, an idea occurred to Aisha. "Maybe I need a different approach to handle this. I could seek advice from mentors or colleagues who have been through similar experiences." Back at the office, Aisha took the initiative to seek guidance from a more experienced attorney, Ms. Mitchell, who was known for being an excellent mentor. She scheduled a meeting with her and, upon meeting in her office, expressed her concerns. "Hello, Ms. Mitchell," Aisha began. "I'm having trouble balancing the internship and my studies, and I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. Could you give me some advice on how to handle this?" Ms. Mitchell, a middle-aged woman with a warm demeanor, smiled. "Of course, Aisha. It's normal to feel this way, especially when you're starting out. The most important thing is to find a pace that works for you. Prioritize your tasks, set realistic goals, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it." "That makes sense," Aisha replied, starting to feel more confident. "I'll try to implement these strategies and see how I can improve." In the following days, Aisha began applying Ms. Mitchell's suggestions. She created a list of priorities, broke her tasks into smaller parts, and sought help whenever needed. Gradually, the balance between the internship and her studies became more manageable. On a sunny afternoon, as she reviewed an important case with a newfound sense of control, Aisha received a message from Naomi. "How's the internship going? We miss you so much and are eager to hear about your progress." Aisha smiled as she read the message and replied, "It's going well. I've faced some challenges, but I'm finding ways to deal with them. I really appreciate your support." Over time, Aisha found that she was becoming more adaptable and confident in her abilities. The internship, despite its initial difficulties, was proving to be a valuable learning experience. Each day, she was getting closer to achieving her goals and becoming the judge she had always dreamed of. Aisha's routine was now defined by a steady rhythm of work, study, and personal commitments. As the end of her second year at Emory University approached, she was beginning to feel the weight of the decisions she would have to make for her future. Summer was coming, bringing a new cycle of opportunities and challenges. One Saturday afternoon, Aisha was in her room, sitting at her desk with a stack of documents and a cup of coffee beside her. She was reviewing notes and preparing for an important presentation on criminal law, which would be a crucial component for her next academic phase. Sarah, her roommate, walked in and noticed the heavy atmosphere. "You've been studying for hours," she said, with a concerned look. "Maybe you should take a break and get out for a bit. It might help clear your mind." "I know," Aisha replied, rubbing her tired eyes, "but this presentation is really important. I want to make sure I'm fully prepared." "I get it," Sarah said, placing a book on the desk. "But remember, your health and well-being are important too. Sometimes a little rest can work wonders." Aisha hesitated for a moment before finally agreeing. "You're right. Let's take a walk in the park. Some fresh air might be just what I need." As they walked through the park, Aisha and Sarah talked about various topics. The conversation eventually turned to Aisha's future plans. "So, have you decided what you want to do after graduation?" Sarah asked, looking up at the blue sky. "I'm thinking about pursuing a master's in law and then moving into a judicial career," Aisha responded, contemplating. "But I'm still reflecting on the best way to achieve my goals and how it fits into my life." "That sounds like a solid plan," Sarah said. "But it's normal to have doubts. Sometimes it's helpful to talk to someone who's been through it to get a different perspective." "You're right," Aisha agreed. "I'm starting to think about finding a mentor or someone who can give me guidance on the next steps." The following week, during an internship meeting, Aisha was introduced to a renowned defense attorney, Dr. Jameson, who was visiting the office for a lecture. Aisha seized the opportunity to approach him and discuss her concerns about the future. "Dr. Jameson," Aisha began, as he was speaking with some interns, "could you give me some guidance on how to decide the best way to advance in a judicial career?" Dr. Jameson looked at her with a friendly smile. "Of course, Aisha. The first step is to understand which areas of law interest you the most. Try out different types of work, like interning in various fields, to discover where you feel most fulfilled." "That makes sense," Aisha replied, absorbing every word. "I'm considering a master's degree, but I'm worried about whether it's really necessary or if there are other ways to advance in the field. A master's can be an excellent addition, but it's not the only way to progress," Dr. Jameson explained. "Practical experience, connections, and skills developed in the field are also very valuable. Talk to professionals in the area and see what paths they have taken. Aisha thanked him for the guidance and began reflecting on his suggestions. Dr. Jameson's words started to shape a new perspective on her future plans. That weekend, Aisha decided to visit her family. The conversation with her parents was an opportunity to discuss her reflections and seek advice. At the dinner table, Naomi and Jamal noticed Aisha's thoughtful expression. "How are things, dear?" Naomi asked, serving food. "Everything's fine," Aisha replied, taking a bite of her meal. "I'm just trying to decide what to do after graduation. I feel like I have so many options and want to make sure I'm making the right choice." Jamal looked at his daughter with an encouraging gaze. Sometimes the best way to decide is to follow your intuition and consider what truly makes you happy. Remember, you have a clear vision and the determination to achieve your goals. Yes, and remember that you can make changes along the way, Naomi added. What's important is that you keep moving forward and learning from each experience. "Thanks, Mom and Dad," Aisha said, feeling comforted. "I really appreciate your support. I'll continue to reflect on what's best for me and try to find a balance between pursuing my dreams and seizing the opportunities that come my way." With the ongoing support of her family and the guidance from mentors, Aisha began to feel more confident in her choices. Her reflections on the future helped clarify her goals and shape a plan to achieve them. As the end of the semester approached, Aisha was ready to face the challenges ahead with a renewed sense of clarity and determination. The start of Aisha Johnson's senior year brought a mix of excitement and nervousness. With graduation on the horizon, the responsibilities and expectations were higher than ever. Aisha felt the pressure not only to maintain excellent academic performance, but also to begin preparing for her future career. The months were passing quickly, and with them came the need to make critical decisions about her professional future. One Tuesday afternoon at the law firm where Aisha was interning, an important case was assigned to her and the team of lawyers. The case involved a defendant accused of a serious crime, and the responsibility of preparing the defense was in the hands of Aisha and her fellow interns. Mr. Thompson called Aisha and her colleagues for a quick meeting. "This is a complex and significant case," he began, looking at each in turn. "I need you to research thoroughly and prepare a detailed analysis of the defense. This is a test to show how capable you are." Aisha felt a knot in her stomach at the word test. She knew this was an important opportunity, but also an immense pressure. "Sure, Mr. Thompson," she replied, trying to keep her composure. That night, Aisha immersed herself in the research and documents related to the case. The atmosphere in her room was charged with tension and determination. Sarah walked in and saw Aisha engrossed in her work. "Hey, Aisha, are you still working on that case?" Sarah asked, looking at the stack of papers. "Yes," Aisha replied, not lifting her eyes from the document she was analyzing. "It's a very important case, and I want to make sure everything is perfect." Sarah came over and sat next to her. "You've been working a lot. Maybe it's a good idea to take a break and rest for a bit. Overworking won't help you perform well." "I know," Aisha said with a sigh, "but the pressure is high, and I can't afford to make mistakes." Sarah put her hand on Aisha's shoulder, offering a gesture of support. "Trust your skills. You've already shown you can handle much more. Just do your best and remember that rest is part of the process." Aisha smiled, grateful for Sarah's support, and decided to take a short break. She went for a walk around campus, trying to clear her mind and relieve some of the stress. The next morning, the day of the trial began with a charged atmosphere of tension. Aisha and her team were nervous but prepared. Upon arriving at the courthouse, she met with Ms. Mitchell, her mentor, who was there to observe the progress of the case. "Good luck, Aisha," Ms. Mitchell said with an encouraging smile. "Remember, you've prepared well. Focus on what you've learned and move forward with confidence." "Thank you, Ms. Mitchell," Aisha replied, trying to absorb the words of encouragement. "I'll do my best." The trial proceeded, and Aisha and her team presented the defense with seriousness and competence. Each argument was a critical piece of the puzzle, and Aisha was determined to make a significant contribution. During a break, she met with Mr. Thompson. "How do you think it's going so far?" Mr. Thompson asked, observing the work with a critical eye. "I'm trying to do the best I can," Aisha replied, taking a deep breath. "But it's challenging. I want to make sure we're covering all the necessary points." "You're doing very well," Mr. Thompson said, offering a slight smile. Remember, the most important thing is the quality of the work and the clarity of your arguments. Keep it up. As the trial continued, Aisha felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. Finally, the moment came when both sides presented their closing arguments, and the decision was left to the jury. Aisha and her team anxiously awaited the final verdict. That evening, Aisha met with Mia to vent about the day. They met at a quiet cafe, and Aisha seemed tired but relieved. "I've never been so nervous in my life," Aisha said, taking a sip of her coffee. "But I think I did my best. Now, I just hope the jury sees things the same way." Mia looked at her friend with a sympathetic smile. "You did an amazing job, Aisha. The most important thing is that you learned and grew from the experience. Regardless of the outcome, that's what really matters." Aisha smiled, feeling comforted by Mia's words. "Thank you. Sometimes it's hard to see beyond the pressure of the moment, but your perspective really helps." With the trial's outcome pending, Aisha was ready to face the next challenge in her journey. She knew that each experience and every obstacle overcome was an opportunity for growth and learning. The path to becoming a judge still had many steps ahead, but with each challenge faced, she was one step closer to achieving her dream. Summer brought a sense of renewal for Aisha Johnson. With the end of her final year of college approaching, she was excited about what the future held but also apprehensive about the challenges she would still face. After a period of intense preparation and hard work, the time to take concrete steps toward her career was finally arriving. Aisha was in the library, reviewing her resume for her application to the graduate program in law. The table was cluttered with documents as she tried to find the best way to present her experience and goals clearly and persuasively. Sarah walked in and saw Aisha immersed in her task. "Still working on that?" she asked, pulling up a chair to sit next to Aisha. "You must be tired. The application deadline is approaching." "Yes," Aisha replied, adjusting her glasses. "I'm trying to make sure everything is perfect. I want my application to stand out. But there's so much to consider." Sarah smiled, placing a hand on Aisha's shoulder. "You've done an amazing job so far. Don't forget that it's your passion and dedication that will shine through in your application. Just be authentic and show why you're the best choice." Aisha took a deep breath, feeling a bit more confident with Sarah's words of encouragement. "Thanks, Sarah. I really want to make the most of this opportunity to advance my career." On a hot July afternoon, Aisha went to an interview for an internship position at a federal judge's office. It was an opportunity that could be crucial for her career. She arrived at the imposing building and was greeted by Linda, the judge's secretary. "Welcome, Aisha," Linda said with a warm smile. "Judge Brown is looking forward to meeting you. He's in the conference room right now. Please follow me." Aisha followed Linda to the conference room, where Judge Brown greeted her with a serious but kind expression. He was dressed in a suit and tie, and his office was filled with legal books and documents. "Good morning, Aisha," Judge Brown said, extending his hand for a firm handshake. "Please have a seat." "Good morning, Judge Brown," Aisha replied, sitting down with a confident but attentive posture. "So, Aisha," Judge Brown began, "I see you have a solid academic background and internship experience. What motivated you to apply for this internship position in my office?" Aisha smiled, trying to convey her passion and commitment. "I've always dreamed of becoming a judge, and I believe that working directly with a federal judge will provide me with invaluable experience. I want to understand the judicial process better and learn from someone who is already in that position." Judge Brown listened attentively, taking notes as Aisha spoke. "That's admirable. This internship will require a lot from you, not just in terms of work, but also in terms of ethics and commitment. How do you handle pressure and difficult situations?" Aisha thought for a moment before responding. "I handle pressure by maintaining an organized and focused approach. When faced with difficult situations, I try to analyze the situation rationally and seek solutions. I believe the ability to stay calm and think critically is essential in our profession." Judge Brown nodded, seeming satisfied with her answer. "Very well. We believe you could be a valuable addition to our team. We'll review all applications and get in touch soon." Aisha left Judge Brown's office feeling a mix of relief and anticipation. She knew the final decision might take some time, but she felt optimistic about the interview and the possibility of a new beginning. That evening, Aisha and her family gathered for dinner at home. The conversation turned to the recent interview and the next steps in Aisha's career. "How did the interview go, dear?" Naomi asked, serving a salad. "It went well," Aisha replied, helping herself to some food. Judge Brown seemed like a very experienced and respected person. "I feel like the interview went positively, but now it's just a waiting game." Jamal looked at Aisha with a proud smile. "Regardless of the outcome, I'm very proud of you. The way you prepared and answered the questions shows how committed you are to your career." "Thanks, Dad," Aisha said, smiling. "I really hope this opportunity works out. I'm looking forward to taking the next step in my journey." August brought a new wave of challenges, with the end of the semester approaching and the wait for the internship offer response. Aisha continued to devote herself to her studies and preparing for the future, while also staying optimistic and confident. When the response finally arrived, Aisha was accepted for the internship at Judge Brown's office. The news brought a wave of joy and a new sense of purpose for Aisha. She knew she was about to begin an important phase of her professional life, and she was ready to face the challenges and seize the opportunities that lay ahead. Fall brought a new energy to Judge Brown's office, where Aisha Johnson was starting her internship. The environment buzzed with the beginning of a new cycle of cases and preparations for the end of the year. Aisha was eager to start, but also aware of the challenges she would face. On the morning of her first week, Aisha arrived early at the office, dressed in a sharp gray suit and carrying a folder full of documents. Linda, the secretary, greeted her at the entrance. "Good morning, Aisha," Linda said with a smile. "Judge Brown is expecting you in the conference room for a brief introduction." "Good morning, Linda," Aisha replied, adjusting her folder. "Thank you." As she entered the conference room, Aisha found Judge Brown reviewing some documents. He looked up and gestured for her to sit. "Good morning, Aisha," Judge Brown said. "I'm glad you've started. This will be an intense but valuable experience. Today, I want you to get familiar with the current cases and the tasks you'll be handling." "I'm excited to get started," Aisha replied with enthusiasm. "I'm here to learn and contribute in any way I can." "Great," Judge Brown said, handing Aisha a folder with documents. "Here are the cases we need to prepare for the upcoming hearings. Take a look and prepare a summary of the main legal issues." "Understood," Aisha said, taking the folder and starting to review the documents. The work was challenging, but the complexity was exactly what drew her in. By late afternoon, Aisha was reviewing her notes when Mrs. Mitchell walked into the room. Mrs. Mitchell had been an important mentor to Aisha and was visiting the office for an informal check-in. "Hi, Aisha," Mrs. Mitchell said, sitting down next to her. "How's the internship going so far?" "Hi, Mrs. Mitchell," Aisha replied with a smile. "It's more challenging than I expected, but I'm learning a lot. I'm working on a case summary for the judge." "That's great," Mrs. Mitchell said, looking over the documents next to Aisha. "Remember, the key to doing a good job is not just understanding the law, but also how to apply it effectively. If you need any help, don't hesitate to ask." "Thank you," Aisha said, feeling encouraged. "I really appreciate your support and guidance." As the months went by, Aisha delved deeper into her responsibilities. She encountered complex issues, requiring a deep understanding of the law and sharp analytical skills. On one particularly stressful morning, Aisha was reviewing a high-stakes case when a new challenge emerged. During a team meeting, Judge Brown addressed a particularly complicated case that was about to be tried. He assigned Aisha the task of preparing a detailed defense analysis. "Aisha," Judge Brown said with a serious look, "this case is critical, and we need to ensure that all arguments are well-founded. You'll be leading the preparation of the defense for the upcoming hearing." Aisha felt a pang of anxiety. "Understood, Judge Brown. I'll dedicate myself to this and ensure the defense is ready." That night, Aisha worked late, reviewing legal precedents and preparing arguments. The weight of the responsibility was immense, but she was determined to do a good job. She took a break to call her mother, Naomi, seeking a bit of comfort and encouragement. "Hi, Mom," Aisha said, her voice tired. "I'm working on a really complicated case and feeling a bit overwhelmed." "Hi, dear," Naomi replied, her voice soothing and comforting. "I know you're going through a challenging time, but remember that you have the ability and knowledge to handle it. Trust in your skills and do your best. We're all rooting for you." "Thank you, Mom," Aisha said, feeling a sense of relief. "Your words of support really helped me stay focused." The hearing finally arrived, and Aisha presented the defense with confidence and competence. Each argument was carefully crafted, and she managed to address all the crucial issues raised by the judge. After the hearing, Judge Brown congratulated her on the work she had done. "Aisha, you did an excellent job preparing the defense. Your dedication and attention to detail truly stood out." "Thank you, Judge Brown," Aisha replied, relieved and satisfied. "I learned a lot from this challenge, and I'm grateful for the opportunity." Aisha realized that her work was beginning to make a real difference. She felt a growing sense of accomplishment and confidence, knowing she was getting closer to her goal of becoming a judge. The challenges were still present, but each success brought her closer to her dream. With the experience gained and the ongoing support from mentors and family, Aisha was ready to tackle the next stage of her journey. She knew the road ahead would be filled with more challenges, but she was prepared to face them with determination and courage. Time flew by, and graduation day was finally approaching for Aisha Johnson. With the end of the semester near and the completion of her academic journey about to be celebrated, Aisha was filled with a mix of emotions: pride, anxiety, and a sense of accomplishment. She had come a long way from her childhood days in Atlanta and was now ready to face new challenges as a legal professional. On the morning of graduation, the campus was buzzing with energy and celebration. Aisha was in her apartment, dressed in her cap and gown, going over the final details. Her mother, Naomi, and her father, Jamal, were by her side, helping adjust her outfit and offering words of encouragement. "You look beautiful, Aisha," Naomi said, adjusting Aisha's cap. "We're so proud of you." "Thanks, Mom," Aisha replied, smiling and feeling a warmth in her heart. "I couldn't have made it here without your support." Jamal entered the room with a camera, ready to capture the moment. "Let's take some photos before we head out. This is a day that deserves to be remembered." After several photos and many hugs, the family headed to the graduation ceremony. The gymnasium was filled with friends, family, and classmates. Aisha spotted Sarah in the crowd and made her way over. "Hey, Sarah," Aisha exclaimed, hugging her friend. "I can't believe the big day is finally here." "I know," Sarah replied with a radiant smile. "You've worked so hard to get here. I'm so happy to be here to celebrate with you." During the ceremony, Aisha felt moved as she listened to the keynote speaker. He spoke about the importance of perseverance and following one's dreams, and his words resonated deeply with Aisha. No matter how difficult the path may be, the speaker said, what matters is the courage to keep moving forward. The determination and passion you've shown throughout your journey will take you far. Hearing those words, Aisha reflected on her own journey, from the struggles of childhood to the achievements of college. The sense of accomplishment was palpable and filled with gratitude. When it was time to receive diplomas, Aisha walked across the stage with a confident smile. When her name was announced, she accepted her diploma with pride, and the audience gave her a standing ovation. As she left the stage, she was greeted by her family and friends. "Congratulations, Aisha," Naomi exclaimed, hugging her with emotion. "You did it. We're so proud of you," Jamal said, with a tear of pride in his eye. "You made it." Sarah also joined in the celebration. "You did an amazing job, Aisha. What comes next will just be another step in an incredible journey." With tears of joy in her eyes, Aisha thanked everyone for their support. "I couldn't have made it here without all of you. Each of you has been a part of this journey, and I'm forever grateful." After the ceremony, Aisha and her family went to a restaurant for a small celebration. During dinner, they talked about Aisha's next steps and future opportunities. "So, Aisha," Naomi asked, "what are your plans now? Have you decided what you'll do next?" "I'm considering an internship at a law firm and also preparing for the bar exam," Aisha replied. "There's a lot to do, but I'm excited about the opportunities." "You're ready to tackle any challenge that comes your way," Jamal said, toasting with a glass of champagne. "Your hard work and dedication will take you far." As dinner continued, Aisha reflected on her journey and the goals she still had ahead. She knew the road would be filled with challenges, but she was prepared to face them with the same determination that had brought her to this moment. That night, as she looked up at the stars, Aisha felt a profound sense of peace and accomplishment. The future was full of possibilities, and she was ready to embrace each one with courage and passion. The graduation ceremony was just the beginning of a new phase in her life, and Aisha was eager to see where the journey would take her.